I just want to check my balance. The billionaire laughed. Not a cruel laugh, more like the kind that slips out when you've forgotten what struggle sounds like. It echoed softly through the marble lobby, bouncing off glass walls and gold accents. People nearby smiled politely, assuming it was a joke. But when the single dad janitor tilted his cracked phone toward the screen, the laughter died. If you stay with me until the very end of this story, you'll understand why one number on a screen changed 2 lives forever, and why sometimes the quietest people are carrying the heaviest truths. And if this story touches your heart even a little, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel. Stories like this only reach more people because of you. The janitor's name was Daniel Cruz. Most people didn't know it. To them, he was just the man in the blue uniform who arrived before sunrise and left long after offices emptied. He pushed a cleaning cart with a squeaky wheel, whistled softly when he thought no one was listening, and always wore the same faded jacket no matter the season. On the sleeve, the stitching was coming apart. On the back, there was a small patch his daughter had sewn herself, a crooked yellow star. Daniel didn't talk much. Not because he was unfriendly, but because words cost energy, and energy was something he rationed carefully. By the time he reached the lobby each morning, he'd already packed lunches, braided hair, signed school papers, and whispered promises he prayed he could keep. His daughter, Sophia, was 8 years old. Bright-eyed, stubborn, and curious about everything. Since her mother passed away 3 years earlier, Sophia had become Daniel's reason for breathing. Every shift he worked, every floor he scrubbed, every ache in his back, it all led back to her. That morning, Daniel's phone buzzed in his pocket while he mopped near the ATM area. A message from the school, tuition reminder, final notice. He swallowed hard. He'd been expecting it, but hope has a way of delaying pain until it strikes cleanly. He checked the time. His break was almost over. Still, he walked to the ATM, more out of habit than expectation. He already knew what the screen would show. But sometimes knowing isn't the same as seeing. As he stepped forward, another man was already there. Tall, confident, expensive. His suit looked like it had never met dust in its life. Silver hair, tailored jacket, a watch that probably cost more than Daniel earned in a year. This was Richard Hale, the building's owner. A self-made billionaire. Media darling. The kind of man whose name appeared in magazines under words like visionary and genius. Richard was talking on his phone, smiling. No, wire it today. If the balance dips below 8 figures, I'll notice, he joked. Daniel stopped a respectful distance behind him, eyes lowered. Richard finished his call and turned, finally noticing the janitor waiting. Oh, sorry about that, he said casually. Go ahead. Daniel hesitated. It's okay, sir. I just want to check my balance. That was when Richard laughed. It wasn't meant to insult. It was reflexive, automatic, careless. In Richard's world, balance checks were background noise, something assistants handled. The idea of waiting in line to check a balance felt almost quaint. Daniel didn't react. He simply nodded and inserted his card. The machine hummed. The screen loaded. Daniel stared. His shoulders stiffened. Richard glanced over, expecting to see a small number, maybe even an overdraft warning. What he saw instead made his breath catch. The balance wasn't small. It wasn't modest. It was enormous. More zeros than Richard was used to seeing outside his own accounts. For a moment, the billionaire thought he was misreading it. He leaned in slightly. Then more. His smile faded, replaced by confusion, and then something closer to shock. Daniel noticed the shift and instinctively turned the screen away, as if he'd done something wrong. Sorry, Daniel said quietly. I'll move. No, Richard said quickly. Too quickly. Wait. Daniel froze. Richard stared at him now, not as a janitor, but as a mystery. That balance, that can't be right. Daniel swallowed. It is. Silence settled between them, heavy and uncomfortable. You work here, Richard said slowly. I see you every morning. Yes, sir. You're a janitor. Yes, sir. Richard exhaled sharply. Then how? Daniel hesitated. For years, he'd perfected invisibility. Answers invited questions. Questions invited attention. Attention complicated things. But something in Richard's face wasn't mocking now. It was unsettled. I don't spend much, Daniel said finally. And I've been saving for a long time. That's not saving, Richard replied. That's discipline on another level. Daniel gave a small smile that didn't reach his eyes. When you lose someone, you learn fast what matters. Richard didn't press. But the words lingered with him long after Daniel returned to his mop and Richard walked away, his thoughts louder than the lobby ever was. That night, Richard couldn't sleep. He kept seeing the number on the screen. Not because it threatened his wealth, but because it challenged his assumptions. He'd built an empire believing intelligence and risk-taking were rare. Yet here was a man who cleaned floors, quietly amassing wealth with patience and restraint. Curiosity gnawed at him. The next day, Richard arrived early. Too early. He watched from a distance as Daniel worked. Noticed the way he polished every surface carefully, how he straightened chairs others ignored. How he paused at the window to watch parents drop off children at the nearby school. Daniel, Richard said eventually. Daniel turned, startled. Yes, sir. Have coffee with me. Daniel blinked. I'm on shift. So am I, Richard replied. Just in a different way. Over coffee, Daniel spoke little at first. But Richard listened more than he spoke, a rare thing for him. Daniel shared pieces, not the whole. How he'd grown up poor. How his father taught him that money was a tool, not a prize. How after his wife died, fear became his fuel. I didn't want my daughter to ever feel unsafe, he said. So I saved. Even when it hurt. Richard leaned back, silent. What do you want? Richard asked finally. I mean really want. Daniel thought of Sophia. Of her dreams. Of the school letter. Time, he said. Time with my daughter. A week later, Daniel was called into the office. His heart raced. People like him didn't get summoned unless something was wrong. Richard stood by the window. I want you to stop cleaning floors, he said. Daniel's stomach dropped. Sir, if I did something. I want you to help me build something, Richard interrupted. Someone with your discipline, your patience, that's rare. Daniel hesitated. I'm not educated like you. Richard smiled. Neither was I, once. It wasn't charity. It wasn't pity. It was partnership. Months passed. Daniel learned. Slowly. Carefully. He still wore his jacket some days. Still packed Sophia's lunch. Still checked his balance, not because he needed to, but because it reminded him where he started. One evening, Sophia sat beside him, swinging her legs. Daddy, she said, are we rich? Daniel smiled. We're safe, he replied. That's better. Years later, Richard would tell people the story, not about the number, but about the man behind it. About how the quiet janitor reminded him that wealth isn't always loud, and success doesn't always announce itself. And if you're watching this right now, remember this. The world often underestimates the ones who work silently. But what you build patiently can outlast what others chase loudly. If this story moved you, inspired you, or made you see people differently, please like the video and subscribe to the channel. Your support helps stories like this reach hearts that need them. Because sometimes, all it takes is one screen, and the courage to look at it.